What's going on, guys? No, just checking in. Another video with counselor, author, spiritual advisor, and good friend of mine, Douglas Bloch. We are continuing our series going over topics of mental health. Douglas was a huge part of my mental health recovery. I have no doubt he can be of service to you. Today we're going to talk about bringing pleasure into your life, and we'll go ahead and get this thing going. Doug, go ahead and say hi to everyone.
Hi, everybody.
All right. Doug, this question might sound self-explanatory, but I have no doubt you have a good spin on it. Why is it important for someone who is suffering from depression or anxiety to bring pleasure into his or her life?
The reason it's important, though, is because lack of pleasure, technically known as anhedonia,
Sure.
which was the original title of the movie Annie Hall,
Oh,
is
wow.
one of the primary symptoms of depression. So if we can somehow find a way to consciously bring pleasure into our lives, even if it's a little bit, that will help to alleviate the syndrome of depression. So when we do something pleasurable, it changes our brain chemistry. Mood-enhancing chemicals in the brain are released, and then we start to feel good. And so the behavior brings the feeling.
Okay. So how does one go about accomplishing this?
Ask yourself the question, what things are pleasurable for me to do? Or maybe if you can't feel pleasure now, what was once pleasurable for me to do, or might be pleasurable.
Sure, referring to the past.
And then see if you can, fake it till you make it and start doing it, like taking a walk, or, seeing a movie with a friend, or working on your garden. Or what are things you think of when you think about bringing pleasure? Maybe spending time with your girlfriend, right?
Sure, spending time with my girlfriend, going for a nice walk, maybe a picnic.
Listening to a piece of music.
Yeah, playing basketball.
Yeah. And just, again, if you're having a hard time thinking, it might help. Try it out and see what happens.
Sure. So this sounds great in theory, of course, but so many people who are depressed don't have the motivation to seek pleasure.
So, again, one of the things that happens with depression is loss of motivation.
Right.
So this is where the second part of my 3 pillars of recovery. First was set the intention to heal. Second is reach out for support.
Okay.
You need to have other people help you to experience pleasure. So let me give you an example of a guy who loved to take hikes in the Columbia River Gorge outside of Oregon. But when he got depressed, he just wanted to sleep all day.
Sure.
So 2 of his buddies from the support group, we'll call them, David and John, would show up at his house at 10 a.m., knock on the door until he had to, shut them up by getting up and answering the door.
Sure.
And literally waited for him to dress, or in some cases even maybe
Helped
helped him out until they put him in the car, drove him out to the gorge, and by the time he put one foot in front of the other, an hour later, he started to feel good.
Sure.
So it could also mean, making sure someone comes, like for me, I would have someone pick me up and take me to the swimming pool because I couldn't get there on my own. So you just have to depend on the help of others to get you over that hump, that resistance, that initial inertia. And once you get going, hopefully the activity will be self-reinforcing.
So it's sort of like the concept of doing what you need as opposed to necessarily doing what you want. As your ideas, your thoughts, and your motivations are pretty clouded when you're depressed, but sometimes putting things into action that used to be pleasurable, that you need to do, are more beneficial than perhaps what your apathetic nature allows you to do.
Right, and then when you're starting to come out of the depression, you
Yeah.
have a little bit more willpower.
Of course.
Then you can start to consciously, pretty soon we're going to, I think, have a list of activities here on the screen. And again, you can ask yourself, what is something I like to do, or used to like to do, or might like to do? Matter of fact, we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, of course. So can thinking about a pleasurable event from your past actually help you to experience pleasure in the present?
Well, in the book, Healing from Depression, 12 Weeks to a Better Mood, which I know you've featured on this site, on my website, I talk about creating a library of positive memories. So just, before we started, I was trying to get myself, motivated to put out the energy to do this.
Of course.
I thought about a wonderful day I had many years ago at the beach with 2 good friends watching the sunset. And when you imagine something from the past that was pleasurable, it releases the same endorphins and pleasurable chemicals in your brain than if you're actually doing it, because the brain cannot tell the difference between something real and imagined. That's why Olympic athletes do these things called visual rehearsal,
Sure.
where they imagine themselves clearing the pole vault or running the sprint before it happens. So drawing upon a resource from the past, drawing upon something pleasurable that happened, tuning into a happy memory can actually create some happiness in the present.
That's awesome. And something I have tried and worked on since you've been working with me, and I fully agree. What are some other ways we can bring pleasure into our lives?
Well, what I mentioned before is in my book and on the website and other books, you should have a list right in front of you of a whole bunch of activities that have the potential to give you pleasure. Have this list in front of you so when it's kind of like a reminder. We can't keep all the stuff in our head. Oh, yeah. Yeah, walking the dog. I forgot walking the dog is cool. Oh yeah, no, I do like the beach,
Sure.
And then try to pick one or two, and maybe 2 or 3 times a week if you can, depending on how well you are. Go ahead and start consciously engaging these activities. And again, if you can't do it, ask a friend or a support person, an ally, to help you with them.
Of course.
So you have to basically, again, have the activities at your disposal and then make a conscious attempt to practice them.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.